Right, hello everyone. Welcome to the Friday Night Live. So this week is guest week, and this week I'm very pleased to say I've got Jen from Sober Sis on, and we were just talking because I was on her Instagram live, and she said it was 2 years ago, which feels like a hugely long time, particularly with
Crazy.
the whole lockdown thing, because I specifically remember it was to make the time difference work. It was in sort of mid-afternoon, midweek or something.
Yes.
And I was at work, so I booked like a pod in my office to sort of lock myself in and do it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I can't believe it's 2 years ago. I mean,
I
are
can't
you
believe
guys
that
locked
either.
down over there? What's things like where you are?
Well, I'm in Texas. And so even within the US, it kind of depends on where you live, kind of your experience, because you can go to one part of our country or one state and it's completely different rules than another state. So fortunately in Texas, we're a little bit more free to move about the cabin, if you know what I mean. We've
Okay.
got a little bit more leeway, although there's still a lot of changes that have gone on here to take normal life and it not be recognizable sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
So tell us a bit about your story. So what I mean, where were you 2 years ago when we spoke then compared to now?
yeah, even 2 years ago, I had really just um, really started getting serious about sober sis and what I'm doing now with a community of women. But my story really began in 2017. And one of the, I mean, this is just so cool, William, that I'm here with you because to me, you're like a rock star. You're like a hero because I read your book in the summer of 2017
Okay.
when I was first really navigating my alcohol free journey. And so you were in that first handful of books and resources that I'd ever heard talking about alcohol in this different way. And so, again, I just have to give you a huge shout out and thank you for really shaping my journey from the get go, from the very, very beginning. And yeah, so for me, my journey really started in 2017. So by the time we talked, maybe a year after that, I was then starting to really want to spread the message of my own experience, what I had learned, and some of these tools to other women who I thought might not hear them if I didn't speak up and speak out a little bit.
So what's your background in terms of your drinking then? Tell us a bit about
Yeah.
your history of drinking and where you got to. Because there tend, I mean, obviously years ago, it was, are you chronically addicted to alcohol? If the
Right.
answer's no, carry on. If the answer's yes, then
Exactly.
you have to quit and spend the rest of your time in recovery and in meetings and all the rest of it. But these days, it's a lot more. Janie Lee Grace on the other week. And obviously, she's what she calls a grey area drinker. So
Yeah.
anyone from the outside would have looked at her, even a doctor would have looked at her and said, "There's nothing wrong with your alcohol intake. Don't worry about it." But obviously, there's more and more people these days who they may not be chronically alcohol dependent, but they're just questioning alcohol and is it a good lifestyle choice? So, I
Right.
mean, where were you on the scale of things?
I put myself right there in that gray area drinking zone, right smack dab in the middle. If someone would have looked at my life externally, they would have been like, yeah, Jen's just, she's a social drinker like everybody else. It was more internally for me where I was really having a lot of the struggle and just that mental chatter, that mental tug of war of, am I going to drink tonight? Am I not going to drink tonight? If I do drink tonight, how can I enjoy it without any of the negative consequences? So I was one of those
Yeah,
drinkers that wanted all the fun and none of the cost. And
yeah. Don't we
unfortunately,
all?
it just doesn't
Yeah.
really work that way. And so my drinking history, I guess you could say, my drinking career started kind of late. I was actually kind of late to the party. I'm one of those that high school, college, early 20s, not so much. Not a big
Okay.
drinker.
Yeah.
Definitely was very involved in, social groups. I was in a sorority in college here in the US. It's kind of known as a party scene. I was very active in it. I actually found that watching other people drink in excess, overdo it, like a lot of young people tend to do when you're just starting out, was actually really sobering for me. It was kind of my cautionary tale, if you will, because just to date myself, I grew up in the late 80s, kind of an 80s kid.
Same here.
So back in the
Yeah.
80s, pre-cell phones, pre-Uber, pre all these things that could kind of get you out of a pinch. For me, it looked kind of scary, out of control. Like, wow, if I'm at a frat party, how am I going to get out of here if I'm half out of it or stumbling around like I was watching other girls do? So it wasn't from a place of judgment. It was more from a place of, yeah, I think I'm good. I mean, I might have a drink here and there. I didn't like the taste. It honestly was not my thing. So that's the irony that now I'm AKA your sober-minded sister, because I was sober-minded for so long, for so much of my life. So made it really through my 20s without being a real drinker, I would say. That was also, I was getting married, starting our family. So it wasn't time to start drinking in those years. But my young 30s, that is when the social drinking and the happy hours and the networking, I found myself working in a business that kept me home with my kids during the day and took me out at night to do all these meetings and happy hours. And I was like, oh, I get it. I was like 32, 33. I've got little kids on the ground at home, been married a decade by that point. So there I was, like 32, Jen's out on the town. No, not really. I was just at a meeting, but it felt like I was out on the town. And so I'm in these, happy hour, hotel lobby kind of situations. And I'll never forget it, honestly. It was kind of because I was so much older, it was really stood out to me. My friend goes, Jen, why don't you get a drink with us? And I thought to myself, why don't I? I mean, really, what's holding me back? Absolutely nothing. I meet all the criteria of having a drink being totally appropriate, kind of glamorous, very adult, and thought, well, I've just been late to the party. Of course, get me started. I don't even know what to order. Like literally, I was just really kind of new to social, just what to drink, when to drink it, where to drink it. But don't worry, William. I caught right up. Caught right up, no problem. Just took me a few epic fails that most people had when they were, 18, 19, 16. Hi, I'm a young mom at that point, and I'm learning how to drink and how to hold my own and how to kind of build up a little bit of tolerance, how to make a fool of myself, and really became is something that I would call an expert drinker in my 30s. I mean, I really honed in on the pairings, on all the ways to work it in because I loved the feeling. Oh my goodness, I had not really used this. I'll call it crutch for now. I had not really used this in my younger days when I felt anxious, when I felt stressed, when I felt overwhelmed, bored, or lonely. I had not turned to alcohol previous. So I think I had a lot inside kind of pent up. So when I did drink, it was like, oh, wow, that is so relaxing. Oh, now I get it. So that was kind of me in my 30s. And I would kind of start to reel it in a few times because I was like, okay, where is the limit? Okay, there it is. Got it. Wheeling back. And so in my 30s, it was just a lot of navigating. Also, being a young mom, the marketing and the messaging towards women, especially, was really starting to amp up in those years. This was about 15 years ago. So again, dating myself, but about 15 years ago, the marketing execs looked around, they kind of looked at the industry and who was not drinking enough. They were like, who's not drinking enough? We got the men, they're drinking their beer, their whiskey, their bourbon, got that. We got the young people with a lot of the seltzers and, White Claw over here is one. And I know y'all got some over there too, but who's not drinking enough? Oh, I gotcha. Moms, working women and moms. And honestly, they really went for us with marketing and messaging campaigns that really made a difference in my life. And I know the lives of many other women that really normalized this kind of wine o'clock, mommy's juice, mommy's time. And I really kind of bought into that because every time I started to feel like, is this okay? Is this good? Is this right? Should I
Mm.
be opening a bottle of wine while I'm cooking at 5 o'clock on a Tuesday night at home? And I would just look around and think to myself, absolutely. That's what all of my friends are doing. It's totally normal. And so that perpetuated, I'm not blaming that, but it's just it's an inflection point because it really influenced me.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I just kept on keeping on. And in my 40s, in my young 40s, is when I really started to notice what started out as a real treat, kind of a reward maybe for the end of the week, and a real treat started to turn into a real habit. And before I knew it, I was locked into a routine.
Mm.
And that was, that nightly glass of wine that turned into two, that turned into three, that turned into, wow, I can plow through a bottle of wine on my own. How did that happen? And
Mm.
again, if you would have told me, Jen, you're someday, Jen, in your 40s, you're going to be able to plow through a bottle of wine on your own in your own home amongst your family and be semi unaffected. Like I'm high functioning, getting everything done. In fact, if anything, I'm getting it done with, I'm having a party getting my dishes done because I'm on the third glass by then. And if someone would have told me, Jen, you're going to be able to drink a whole bottle of wine, I would have thought that is definitely alcoholic behavior. You've got a big problem. Whoa, whoa, whoa. But now come to find out that that's actually very common, and that was bringing me reason for concern because I was also working out every day, green juicing, literally juicing kale in my kitchen, and then turning to a bottle of Pinot Grigio that night, and it was very undoing to what I was trying to do throughout the day.
Yeah, I hear that a lot actually. People who otherwise are extremely healthy, but they
Yes.
kind of have this massive blind spot with alcohol. But I
Yeah.
mean, it's terrible, really. I mean, any kind of that advertising, but that pushing, particularly on mothers. I mean, of all the people who don't need to be more tired and more lethargic,
Right.
it's
Right.
parents, isn't it? It's ridiculous.
It is.
So one of the
Yeah.
things you were talking about that is very interesting because obviously, I mean, we'll come on to what you do now in a bit. In fact, maybe this is a good time. But
Yeah.
something that you said was very interesting was everyone from the outside thought it was all fine, but you knew on the inside that it wasn't. And I think there's almost this perpetual myth in society because we look around at everyone else drinking and
Mhm.
somehow think that they're fine with it, that they get all the good without the bad, and they're perfectly happy with it. But I think most people are questioning it these days, aren't they? I mean, you now tell us a bit about what you do now and that
Yes.
aspect of it. Are you finding more and more people just questioning things generally in respect of quality of life?
For sure. And I think, with just the way the tide is changing out there where it's really more of an open conversation now, or it's becoming one. And I know that that's you and I and many others out there really wanting to make this just a normal conversation where people can kind of negotiate their relationship with alcohol out loud without having to necessarily wear a label or
Mm.
even say, I'm never drinking again. If you just want to explore, is it really working? Is it working for you? And and that's what I found in my own journey. I was about 45. I'm 49 now. I was about 45 when I realized, hey, I'm at a point where my kids are getting older. I'm about to go into a new life stage, and it really was a good opportunity for me just to kind of take some inventory of my own life. And that's really what I encourage people to do is just be curious. Be curious about your own life and is it really working? Because I knew it wasn't working. I knew at
Mm.
3 a.m. with the 3 a.m. wake up call that it wasn't working. I knew when I woke up and felt a little bit guilty or couldn't remember everything that my kids might have said to me the night before as we were kind of rounding up the night. I knew that that was not working for me for sure. But where to go with even those internal questions without just completely stepping off and going, okay, I'm never drinking again, or I've got this huge problem. I knew I had an unhealthy relationship with alcohol, no doubt about it.
Mm.
And so I think just having space to talk about it out loud without all the labels and the shame and the judgment. And we as a society are so good at normalizing drinking alcohol. So we need to normalize talking about it
Mm.
too. And so that's part of what I'm trying to do with Sober Sis, which is really short for sober minded sisters, because we're not really a sobriety club. We're not really a sobriety group. We're really women who are coming together to say, I really want to be more sober minded, meaning present, alert, awake, aware in my own life. Where alcohol fits into that for you, I don't know. I'm not here to say alcohol is right or wrong, good or bad. It's not a moral decision. It's not a moral failure. I really think it's something worth discovering and talking about, and to have a forum much like yours where people can really just explore this, get the science, get the knowledge, because knowledge is power. And that's one thing I did not have. I did not
Mm.
have knowledge and understanding the substance itself and what I was up against, which is again why your work is so critical and important and really helped me a lot, because I didn't understand why I couldn't win. I just thought I just needed to try harder. I thought it was a willpower issue. I thought I just needed to deprive myself to get anywhere. And of course, we know that that doesn't work. And so every time I did quit, I didn't learn anything new. I just white knuckled it. And so I could do that repeatedly for weeks or even months at a time. So I knew that I wasn't physically addicted because I really could stop drinking at any time. But I always felt miserable and deprived.
Mm.
So being curious about that was really important for me.
That's quite interesting, because I think so many people have a slightly different journey to sobriety.
Mhm.
I had a bit of a strange one because I never tried to moderate. I was a binge drinker, so I'd drink and then I'd stop. But I don't. I think there was one or two times in my entire life where I'd drive and I'd think, well, I'll just have one. But I
Yeah.
learned, and this was in my teenage years, and I learned that actually I'd rather have none than just
Mhm.
one or two. So I just would never have one or two. So I gave up moderating years and years ago. But tell us a bit more about your journey. So you're there, you're questioning your relationship with alcohol. What stages did you go through until you got to the point of saying, right, that's it? Because I know some people say, like some people want to quit and they're constantly quitting and then going a day, a week, whatever, and then failing. Other people say to themselves, I'm going to do 30 days. I'll do like dry January. And actually, after dry January, life just becomes so much better and they just continue it and continue it and continue it. So what was your journey? What did that look like?
Yeah. So, really it was pretty wild because I didn't really understand this whole other world of even Instagram, gray area drinking, all that is going on out there now. There is such a movement of people making really fun drink alternatives. I didn't
Mm,
know anything about that. So really stepping into the world of all the podcasts, I was like, wow, jackpot. I didn't know anyone else was thinking this way. I thought everyone else was just black or white, all or nothing. You're either a normal drinker that has zero issues, or you're a full-blown alcoholic. You need to pick one. And I thought, well, I can't pick one because I'm
mm,
neither one. So what do I do? So finding the resources was huge for me. And really what made the difference was changing my beliefs, which I know we've got so many friends that are also writing great books and doing podcasts that are talking so much about our mindset is one thing, but we also have to give ourselves time for our brain to catch up with our mind. So eventually that's what I did is I kept working on my mindset, but I still didn't trust my brain because I knew my brain was still wired to take that drink at 5 o'clock. All the cues, all the triggers were there. I'm cooking. It's 5 o'clock somewhere. It's always 5 o'clock in my kitchen. It was 5 o'clock. And so, really giving myself time just to practice not drinking, but learning instead of trying to just quit, which I had done all the times before. I really wanted to learn. So, I found programs, I found coaches, I found podcasts, I found your book. I became almost, it's kind of funny to say, almost became addicted to learning about alcohol while I wasn't drinking it. I'm like, I'm not drinking tonight, but I'm learning about it. And I'm listening to a podcast right now while I'm cooking. So I did a lot of replacement. I did a lot of replacing where instead of drinking, my typical drink of choice at that time, I had an alternative. I always had choices, so I didn't feel deprived. I felt like I could make another choice. And then, yeah, just a lot of learning, and that was key to take in all these resources out there and just give myself time to practice without worrying so much about perfection. You
Mm.
know, a lot of the women I work with, as soon as they join Sober Sis, I'm like, time out. This is not a tightrope of perfectionism, because that's actually one of the things that's going to cause you to want to drink is that perfectionism. I think there's a lot of people that are real driven, type A, go-getter type people, that when they tackle something, they go all in and they don't allow for practice. They don't allow for mistakes, slip ups, or feedback. And they think that that's a setback. And so a lot of things that we talk about in Sober Sis is, hey, nothing is a setback unless you make it that way. It's really all feedback. It's recon. So, hey, you just had a recon event. Forget the mistake, but please remember the lesson and share
Mm.
it with us. Even better, we can actually all benefit from the lesson, which reminds us, yeah, it's a slippery slope. One turned into three or four. You know, how did that happen? Let's dissect it and learn from it instead of isolate, hide, shame, and then we go back to drinking with a vengeance.
Mm.
Oftentimes, I think when we do that.
So Sober Sis, then you've got to tell us a bit more about that. Then you've got this Facebook group,
Yeah.
and
Yeah. So
go on.
Yeah, so every month at the beginning of the month, I've been doing this now for a little over 2 years, 2.5, I guess, maybe three. Gosh, where's time going? I think because of the year of 2020, everything seems like,
Gone weird,
I
hasn't
think
it? Yeah,
time kind of
time
stood
warp.
still. It feels kind of like a decade's worth of time.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was actually the summer of 2018. So I run this 21-day reset challenge. People love 21 days because 21 days is even less than a month. It's even less than 30 days. And I think people feel like, oh, I don't know about 30 days, but I can do 21,
20,
which
yeah,
is
yeah,
so
21.
funny because it's
Just
not that
getting
big
there.
of a difference. But so at the beginning of every month, I do this 21-day kind of reset challenge where women come into our group. I send out a series of emails, very topical, to talk about the messaging, the marketing, how to handle cravings. What do you do in social situations? We talk about sleep. I have a whole email on just the issue of sleep
Mm.
because I know y'all that is
Yeah.
a big issue. We talk about of just really everything that I really benefited from learning and knowing from others that first go around when I was just initially taking a break and kind of hitting my reset button. And so it's a great community because we are women from all over the world, all different ages. Our youngest is 21, which, you know, is the legal drinking age here in the United States.
Yeah.
And our oldest is, to my knowledge, is 83. So we have women that span all the different decades, different continents of the world. And I just think it's so cool that women with different backgrounds, cultures, everything can come together with this one like-minded focus of being sober-minded, not even necessarily all being alcohol-free,
Mm.
but being sober-minded. And that allows people room and space to have their own journey and their own discovery, which I think is necessary to really move more towards that alcohol-free lifestyle, which I definitely am enjoying and want more people to know that freedom as well. But I think if I led off with that, if I led off with we're a sobriety club, come over here if you never want to drink again, we would not see the numbers that we see of women who are just curious. You know, that hashtag out there, sober curious,
Mm.
is real. And so our gate is pretty wide. We're like, come on in if you just even want to talk about your relationship with alcohol. Take a break, tap the brakes. You can pull off the highway for a minute. And if you want to get back on the drinking highway and try moderating, try mindful drinking, we're here for you. We're gonna hear how that's going for you. And we want it to go well for you, but many of us here know
We know where it'll
that's
end.
not going
Yeah.
to work out that great. So I'm kind of want to be a soft place to land
Yeah.
so that they can still be connected when they realize nope, I did the reset. I didn't drink for 21 days. I think I'll moderate. And then just, I
See
could
you next
moderate
month.
too, William. I could moderate too until I couldn't.
Yeah.
That's what I tell women all the time. They're like, maybe I can moderate. Could you moderate? And I'm like, yeah, I sure could until I couldn't. And I never knew when that was going to be. Could it be
Yeah.
going to a friend's wedding? Could it be just a boring night at home? Could I have gotten in a fight with my husband or be stressed out by my kids? What was going to tip me over the edge to drinking more than I really wanted to?
Mm. Do you think attitudes are changing? What have you seen over the last couple of years? Are you seeing more people questioning their relationship? It seems
Yes.
the sober movement, I might be getting this wrong, but I think over in LA now, it's almost normal not to drink. Everywhere does alcohol. It's almost like they're leading the way, and it's kind of dragging its way east as it
Yeah.
goes.
Oh, I definitely feel that way. There are a lot of celebrities now and people really kind of coming out as this alcohol free person, really for the health of it. I tell a lot of people, I really started my journey not from an addiction perspective, but from a wellness perspective. I mean, I am very into fitness and holistic health, and I was doing all these things mentally, spiritually, emotionally to have personal growth, do all these right things, and then have this one area of my life that just did not align with
Mm,
who I really was. And so for me, now when I go to my hot yoga class and sweat it out, and then I go drink my green juice, and then I don't poison my body at night, it feels very aligning for me. It
mm,
actually feels like now I'm living very wholehearted, which is a big why for me. That's a why.
mm,
So I like to tell people, it's kind of cool because I'm on a wellness journey. And that actually feels a lot more empowering. And I don't know, I really can embrace that more to say, yeah, I'm Jen. I really want to be sober minded and I'm choosing to live this alcohol free lifestyle. And some people are gluten free, some people are vegan. I'm choosing to be alcohol free because it just flat out feels better
mm,
and it works for me better. And the benefits and the gains are so much higher that of course I can drink what I want when I want, but I'm choosing to be alcohol free because there's just so many more gains. I tell women all the time, it's just a deposit. Every time I keep alcohol out of my body, which was a withdrawal, I'm just making a deposit now of healthier choices. So it's like deposit, deposit instead of withdrawal every night from all
mm.
the good I was doing during the day.
Yeah, I think so. One of the important things I think you mentioned was sleep, and one of the biggest things for me was just understanding how alcohol impacts sleep and just how different you feel waking up and forget drinking too much, but even one or two glasses, supposedly a normal amount, and waking up having not drunk and feeling just like you've slept properly. And of course, over here at the moment, we're in pretty much full lockdown. So I'm stuck at home at the moment, supposedly working and homeschooling my 8 and 9 year olds. And you see a lot of posts. In fact, there's a question, I'll read the question out in a minute, but you see a lot of posts from people who are kind of living this fairly stressful lifestyle at the moment and saying, can't, it happened sort of mid-January, and a lot of people on the WhatsApp group through school, because we have a class WhatsApp group, almost immediately posting, oh, that's dry January down the pan, I can't possibly cope without a drink. And I was thinking, I don't understand how you can do it with drinking, because you just be tired and irritated all the time. But one of the questions we've got, um, says, a question for Jen. I've seen countless Facebook posts from homeschooling mums during lockdown, seemingly joking, saying that wine is getting them through the day, and comments from others saying they are doing the same. One mum posted that she started her homeschooling with a glass of wine, and people posted laughing emojis, cheers, comments, etc. There's also a mum's Facebook icon who posts videos of herself reaching for the bottle if anything stressful happens during the day. What are your thoughts about this? I suppose it ties in as well with what you were talking about, advertising, and it puts you in that thing of, you're doing something, it's wrong, but if you somehow have it justified in an image, be it by an advert or a Facebook group, it makes you feel better. But what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, absolutely. And that struggle is real. The stress is real. Um, and the normalization of just reaching for something so mind altering to immediately alter our state of being. And I think as a society, again, I think it's a cultural problem that we've got here of just not knowing how to sometimes just kind of get through something that's uncomfortable. We're so quick to um, change our state of mind. And there are healthy ways to do that so we don't stay stuck in a negative frame of mind. But a mind altering drug to do that, wow, I think as a mom, and again, I've actually homeschooled my kids for a brief period of time, transition in life kind of thing. And that was by choice. That was not even with the lockdowns and stuff. That was kind of crazy.
Brave. Yeah.
I was crazy. There were moments I was like, Jen, what are you doing? Because I did not ever see myself as a homeschooler. It wasn't necessarily my intention. My kids were in 2nd and 4th grade when I started, and I did it for 3 years.
Oh,
and it's a long story. We thought we were moving, and it really, I loved our school. So it wasn't even anything about school. It was just what God had for me. And so, listen, ladies, if that's you out there, I really understand, because I was there. And really, quite honestly, that was in my late 30s. And that really was when I started going, okay, I'm going to get through the day, and it's my reward. I couldn't imagine drinking during the day and trying to get that done, because it is already difficult. It is already hard to have the patience. And, William, I think drinking is so sneaky and so subtle, because it just has a way of kind of getting in there, and it kind of just steals our resilience. It steals our own personal ability to do hard things. We are so much more equipped as human beings to get through hard things and do things that are uncomfortable than we give ourselves credit for or opportunity to grow in. So now when I'm uncomfortable or I don't like the way things are going, instead I'm like, well, Jen, this is an opportunity. You're going to get to flex that muscle. You talk about working out all the time. Well, flex this opportunity to get more resilient, instead of outsourcing my sense of resilience and power to a drink, which is really only going to make me less resilient, less able to do hard things. Because then what happened to me, like many others that are watching, is I started outsourcing my ability to do hard things, get in sticky situations, handle conflict with my family. I thought, I need a drink. Oh, I need a drink to do that. And that's where I was like, ding, ding, red flag. Because I know I don't need a drink to do that. Remember, I didn't drink for a long time. So I knew the difference. And so I knew, wait a minute, no, I can't do hard things without a drink. But if I don't put the brakes on this, I'm going to forget how, because I had so outsourced my, just take a chill pill, mom, kind of relax, get in the car with fighting kids in the back seat, get stuck in traffic. Oh, get me to the restaurant stat. And I need a drink right away to mitigate that. I might even pregame at home before a night like that, and have a drink in my, bathroom while I'm getting ready, just to kind of calm down that anxiety. And really, what I didn't know until I learned from you and others, that alcohol is actually increasing my anxiety. That I was literally pouring, gasoline on a fire that was already inside of me. I was already kind of an anxious person. Didn't even really realize it until I started drinking more. I had more and more anxiety. So I needed to drink more to help with more anxiety. So it's kind of like the chicken and the egg. Which one came first? And so the anxiety can still be there for me. But now I've kind of gone back to my roots, I guess you could say, where I have practiced throughout much of my life how to do hard things and stay present. And it's very empowering, and I feel more able now. And I don't, even though when I do feel nervous or anxious or overwhelmed, which I do every day in some capacity, every day I feel those emotions. I already have today. I felt it a little bit before I got on this interview with you. I said, hope technology works. I hope, between the UK and Texas, I'm at the right time. I have that still, but my body, my mind, my spirit knows how to calm myself down
Mm.
and say, it is going to be all right. Hello, you're going to get, get it going. And when I was drinking, I didn't have that. When I was drinking, I thought, I need that drink to get that. And that drink only numbed me. And then, as you know, I would have to drink more to even
Mm.
keep that effect. Such a
I think,
vicious.
yeah, it is. I think a lot of people, and it is hard when you're on the inside, when you're stuck in that cycle, to really
Yeah.
appreciate how much of an impact, not even just the direct drinking, but just the impact on lack of sleep, just erodes your mental resilience. And it's
Yeah.
very easy when you're drinking to become overwhelmed by things that when you haven't been drinking for a few weeks or months, they just don't bother you in the least, do you? It's just stuff that happens and you just get on with.
Yeah, that's so true. And I would wake up. Yeah, the sleep issue. In fact, I was in that percentile. I think the statistic out there is about 20% of regular drinkers drink for to have a sleep aid. Use alcohol as a sleep aid.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh,
Terrible, isn't
William,
it?
I was that
Yeah.
person as well. Put me in that category. Hello, that's
Yeah.
me as well. Drinking at 5 because it was 1 o'clock, and then I would have one more glass, and then another glass, and then it's getting close to bedtime. And I love my husband of 25 years, but he's a snorer. He's okay with me saying that. It's public. It's public
Public
knowledge.
knowledge now. Yeah.
Poor guy. He's like outed as a snorer. And I'm a light sleeper, so that's a bad combo. So I'm a light sleeper. He's a deep, heavy sleeper. I also had, teenagers during those years, and I thought, man, I got to knock myself out. Well, sure enough, it did. Yep. In
Mm.
fact, this is embarrassing, but I'm going to go ahead and say it because it may help one person. I actually sometimes had a little glass of wine by my bedside. And again, you're talking to someone who didn't drink until their 30s. And I got to the point where I was like, there's just a little bit left of the bottle. Maybe I didn't have it all in the bathtub. I'm going to move it over here. And just one final swig or two ought to really turn down the noise. And
Yeah.
it worked until it didn't. And what I say until it didn't was that infamous 3 a.m. wake up call, the one where you wake up with a little bit of a racing heart, kind of maybe feeling kind of hot and sweating, kind of a oops, I did it again moment where you're like, oh no, yes. Yeah, that moment of reckoning. And it's just a lonely time too. I think on an emotional level, it's really defeating and it feels really lonely.
It's a strange one, isn't it? Because I wake up in the night, not often now, but when I do, I don't mind it because it's just a nice peaceful time and I lie there and sort of drift in my thoughts. But it's when you wake up having drunk that the
Yes,
anxiety kicks in, isn't it?
that's
And
a big
really,
difference.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Just out of interest, does your husband drink or has he stopped as well?
He does drink
He
still,
does. Yeah, my wife
actually.
still drinks. Is that
Okay,
how do
okay,
you
we
find
have
that? Because
that
a
in
lot of,
common.
yeah,
Yeah.
a lot of people say that, and is it a problem? I mean, I personally, my wife doesn't drink a huge amount anyway, so it's
Yeah.
not a massive thing. But how do you cope with that? That's
At first it was a real challenge for me. I've got to be honest and say, my husband was kind of my drinking buddy. He
mm,
was my drinking partner, and it was a major activity for us. Um, just going out, date nights, dinners, events, back patio, cooking out, you name it. We were drinking together. And so it was a pretty big departure for me, but I knew because we had taken breaks together in the past, which were kind of my idea, like, babe, will you take a break with me? He would. But this time I knew that my journey, when I really started for myself, was going to have to be my own road.
mm,
And so I remember vividly looking at him. We had 2 margaritas each on the rocks at one of our favorite spots in our town. And I looked at him and I said, babe, I'm going to take a 6-week break. I don't know past there. That was kind of my first goal, 42 days, 1,000 hours. I'm just going to do it. And so you don't have to stop for me or because of me, but just know that this is what I'm doing. I don't know what it's going to look like after that. I had no idea that I would still be alcohol free and doing sober sis.
mm.
But it was almost at that moment that we just kind of, departed ways a little bit and got on our own journeys. And so I agree with you. My husband's relationship is different than mine was with alcohol. Mine was very emotional. I had a lot of mental chatter, a lot of cognitive dissonance. He doesn't really have that around alcohol. He does drink on a fairly consistent basis. I wouldn't say he drinks in excess. He probably drinks more consistently. But for him, he doesn't have any mental conflict with it. He's like, yeah, I'm going to go out with the guys. I'm going to drink a couple of beers and I'm done. And then I may do that tomorrow or the next day. I don't really know. He doesn't really, it was not an issue for him.
Mm.
But it has been something we've had to navigate. And because I work with so many women who have spouses and partners that drink, it's actually given me a little bit more relatability because I understand what it feels like when your spouse still drinks or the majority of your friends drink, because many people do, and how to navigate just staying in your own lane. How do you stay in your own lane and still really find ways for connection without alcohol being the activity or the connector? Because we know it's really not connecting. It's actually very disconnecting.
I think you're right. And it's true to a degree. I mean, not everyone has a partner necessarily who drinks or doesn't drink or whatever that affects things.
Yeah.
But you're right. It's like 90% of the population drinks. So even if you quit and you don't have an issue with your partner, there's still going to be friends and colleagues and relatives who all drink anyway. So you have to make your sobriety stand alone in many ways, don't you?
You do. You do. I read a Brene Brown book that first year also that I was alcohol free, called Braving the Wilderness. And that book really stood out to me because she talks about how to kind of belong to yourself in a room where you might feel really alone, but there's still a belonging. And I always went back to my why. Why am I doing this? I can go back to drinking at any time. I didn't hit a rock bottom. I didn't lose anything. I never got a DUI. I never got in trouble. I never really had a negative external consequence other than a few of those hangovers really impacted me. But, like I didn't really have that. So there was no one making me stop drinking. I didn't have to show up and do something. So I think going back to having a really strong why am I wanting to change my relationship with drinking? Why do I really want to change? And I've continued to work on that and go deeper in that. And now, being alcohol free is such a great lifestyle. I think it's my superpower. I think it's your secret weapon. I think it's like out there in the world full of drinkers. And again, no shame, no judgment. But I always feel like, I used to drink to take the edge off. And now by not drinking, I feel like I got my edge back. It is my edge. It is what makes me sharper in a room or lets me know when to leave. And I can head on out. I always have an exit plan.
I've just seen the time actually. It's gone really quickly. There's a few more questions. I don't think we're going to get around to all of them, but I might have time, if you're okay, just to do one more.
Sure.
I think this is a good one, actually. A question for Jen. How did she navigate the changing sense of self after stopping drinking? I feel like a completely different person, and trying to figure that change is hard. I don't miss alcohol and I don't see it as a shield or a protector. However, I'm different and a lot of that is good, but some is new territory. Thank you.
Yes. Oh, I read that question. I'm so glad we had time to talk about it because yes, for me, it was a major identity shift. Because keep in mind, I kind of started out as a non-drinker. That was part of my identity early on. But it was funny because back then, back in the late 80s, early 90s, there wasn't such a drinking culture either. It wasn't such a big part of my identity to be a non-drinker because there were more non-drinkers. There are definitely more drinkers today, I think, socially than there were, at least where I grew up. And I grew up
that's completely different where we are. It's the other way around completely.
Really? That's so interesting. Oh yeah. Now here in Texas, where I am, there are actual bars in grocery stores. Like seriously, you can be shopping and stop off and get yourself a glass of wine or a pint of beer. Keep shopping with your cart and drop it off at the end of an aisle in a drink holder at the grocery store, at the market. Okay, that was not happening here 20, 15 years ago. And so really here in our neck of the woods, as we say, I've watched drinking become really so prevalent that, even at a gym or a yoga studio, they're bringing it in sometimes there on a Friday night. after, after working out.
Mm,
And so I didn't see that when I was a non-drinker, because I really didn't feel ostracized or really that different as a non-drinker, because there were actually a lot of non-drinkers around me. But now it seems like in our society, or at least where I am, there's so many more people drinking, but there are also more people waking up
mm,
to how, especially after COVID in 2020. I have definitely, and you probably have too here in your Facebook group, I've definitely seen more people questioning their drinking than ever before, because I also watched people that had not struggled with their drinking to the level that they had in 2020. It
mm.
like accelerated and
Massively,
amped
didn't it?
everything
Yeah.
up. So back to the question, I guess, real quick is, so my identity kind of had to shift back again to really who I am apart from drinking. And I didn't realize how much I propped myself up on it as my social, lubricant to walk in a room. And I already knew how to walk in a room and not have a drink in my hand to feel confident or comfortable. So for me, going back to my beliefs, going back to what is really true, and not really believing the lies and the marketing and the messaging, and really looking at reality, and seeing that, slowly through changing my beliefs and my habits, it created a new lifestyle for me. But it took time. I mean, it really had to undo a lot of learning that I had, learned in those years of drinking.
Mm. I think our self-image becomes, we build alcohol into it and we see ourselves as a drinker, don't we? And
Yeah,
it just
for
becomes part of
sure.
everything. So I'm going to have to say, call it to an end, because I just realised what the time is. But thank you so. I could stay and talk. I really want to get
Oh,
you
yeah.
back on to
We'll have
talk
to
for
do
a
this
lot more
again.
about these issues. It's fast. I'm really interested as well about what you were saying about how things have panned out over there with people drinking more, because it really has been the other way around over here.
Yeah, that's so interesting.
Drinking has
I do think
kind of
y'all.
gone back a bit, and even
Yeah,
for me, like, because I work in, well, when I was in an office, I was in the city of London, and when I started there like 15 years ago, people were going out at lunchtime and drinking all afternoon quite regularly, whereas
right.
now it's very, very different. It's kind of frowned upon. So
Interesting.
things are kind of moving that way.
Maybe
But
that'll happen over here, because no, it's very, and I'm in Texas, kind of a sunny weather state. So patios are real big here, which
mm,
definitely lend to kind of that day drinking, that let's go grab lunch with the girls, have a drink or two. So yeah, it's very prevalent here.
so,
So
okay, yeah. Strange.
maybe the change will keep coming over the
Yeah,
pond.
sometime, yeah. Well, look, thank you so much for coming on. It's been brilliant.
Yeah,
So just before we go, so tell everyone where they can find you. You're
yeah.
on Instagram, obviously, and website.
For sure. Definitely find me on Instagram at SoberSis. And then if you want to check out, I've got a free guide actually for women who may just want to take a night off, a weekend off, and kind of learn some tools that have really worked for me. So if you go to sobersis.com, you can download my free guide. And then every month I do this 21-day reset challenge. And so if you're following me on Instagram or you sign up for my free guide, I will let you know, because you'll be on my email list, about the next reset and when that starts.
Fantastic. Excellent. Thank you
Yeah,
so much for coming on again.
you bet. Thanks for having me. This was really fun.
Thank you. See you soon. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.